Hey everybody, I'm just going to wait for some folks to filter in here so we get as many people in the room as we can get in. We may have some people join a little bit later as well. But as you're getting started, if you want to jump in and introduce yourself in the chat, and then we'll get started in just one sec. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We have kind of a lot to get done today, so yeah, it's probably good to start on time. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Sean Michael Morris, the acting head of pedagogy at GPTZero, and the host for today's back to school webinar on responsible AI tools, featuring an educator panel. This webinar is part of a two-part series designed to help you dive into the semester AI ready. In a few moments, I'll introduce our facilitator, but first, I want to set the stage a bit. GPTZero is hosting this webinar and the one next week in order to build awareness and skills amongst teachers about the responsible use of AI at all levels of teaching and learning. In keeping with the company's mission of preserving what's human in education, the focus here is on your work in your classroom. We'll begin today with a short presentation from our first speaker, and then we're bringing on two educators who are part of GPTZero's Educator Ambassador program. I'll explain more a little bit later, but the Ambassador program is a way for teachers to help their peers learn about AI use in the classroom and to enjoy free access to GPTZero as a perk. Our panel later in the session will talk about how they are working with GPTZero in their practice. Today's webinar is being recorded, and everyone who registered will receive a link to the recording in the next few days. As we get started, please do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and to use that space to connect with each other. If you have questions for our speakers, please use the Q&A function in Zoom to post them there. There's going to be a fair number of folks in attendance today, so the Q&A function is probably the best way for us to keep questions organized and to answer as many as possible. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to today's facilitator, Stephanie Spiker. Stephanie is an associate professor and the digital fluency faculty in residence at Weber State University, teaching courses focusing on instructional design, assessment, and curriculum theory. Specializing in the implementation of classroom learning communities and the bridging of social justice ideology into experiential education methodology, Stephanie assists educators across disciplines with how to enhance their teaching, leadership, and relationship skills. Recently awarded the Presidential Teaching Excellence Award at her university, Stephanie enables others to share their wisdom and ideas in an environment that thrives on collaborative thought, effort, and action. And with that, I'll turn over the mic. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Sean. It's always an honor to be here and work with you and partner with GPTZero. So thanks. And I already love seeing everybody in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a link into the chat. And Sean, I'm just not sure. Mine is saying host and panelist. So I might need you to make sure folks can access that. Oh, there. Well, yeah, it's not showing that it's everyone. So if maybe you could double check that for me. Hi, everyone. I just want to make sure that folks we'll make sure that you get a link to the slides. I'm going to start sharing right now. And awesome. Everybody should be able to see my screen. Great. Let's get out of there and present that. Some of you might have had a chance to hear me present before, so it's great to see some familiar names and also lots of new names and places from all over the place. It is so all over the world, I should say, and place, depending where you are. Like Sean said, I am an associate professor. So I have just started my school year in Utah. And so really for the focus of the time that I have with all of you today, I thought we could talk about the intentional integration of AI. And I'm just going to be sharing some just big overarching, some practical strategies that I think you'll be able to find useful. And I too hope that we're creating a space where if you're just starting the school year, or if you're already in the school year, you've been teaching for several months, depending on the environment that you're in, please participate and share in the chat. We want it to be active, where you all are sharing ideas and just really connecting with each other. I'm finding that's really important during this time. And so for me, for the time that I have with you today, I'm just going to be sharing what's been really resonating and ruminating in my head as I've been heading back to school. As we begin, what I'd like to do is if we could start with a pre-flexion. I really like to get a sense of where folks are. And I think just, again, many of us are starting this new academic year. And if you're not necessarily starting a new academic year, just really how are you feeling about AI in teaching and education right now? So looking at these pictures, which one of these pictures really resonates with you? And if you could put that into the chat and talk about just a sentence or two about why you picked that picture. Great, seeing some fours, and it's getting me curious. Maybe you could add a statement or two about how you're feeling. I know for me, I just recently, I switched these pictures out. I really like using this as a pre-flexion activity to get a pulse of how folks are doing. And I know I shift and change. In fact, we were talking the other day, we can't believe it's been 3 years really since AI burst into the scene as it's impacting teaching and learning. And so here we got to have some twos, the coolness and the calmness. 4A gives me a chance to research and learn. We have a great AI policy and have opened up AI tools for faculty and staff. So we're trying to foster curiosity, as we can see with the magnifying glass in number 4. This is great. Keep throwing these into the chat. Definitely some 6s. I thought about that as I was like, rubrics being made. Yes. But really, and yeah, number 3, too many AI papers. I felt that very much so last semester with my grad students. So thank you all so much for sharing where you are and how you're feeling at this time, because I think that helps really ground us and the community in which we're in here today with everyone. I also like to share, this is a photo of me, my very first year teaching. And I'd love to hear for some of your memories in the chat too. I put this in here. I actually, we were just talking. So I was teaching in an elementary school today, my pre-service teachers. And I showed them this picture, and I was talking to them that this was my first year teaching, 1994, 95. You can see it's March 3rd. And I was looking at this, and I was like, oh my gosh, the size of that monitor is almost as big as my head. And so, we think about how much has changed. And I really thought at the time that this was like cutting edge technology that I could email people, within my school district. So I really, as we're talking about this intentional use of technology and the intentional use of AI, I like to think about how much has changed and how quickly the pace is happening. And so we have to be so intentional. And as educators, we're in a powerful place, because this is where our expertise lies. In fact, I wrote some notes to start today that really I think about when I think about and I look at myself in this picture 30 years later. I think about, where am I now? My skills, my knowledge, my identity as a teacher, balancing my curiosity of this technology and even how I felt at this time, but also, like Sean mentioned, honoring the student in the process, and the human in the process is critical. Great. I love seeing, continue to share your background and where you all are coming from. This is fantastic. I just have a few slides before I share some strategies that I'm using to kick off my school year, and that I'm really going to be thinking about. These are grounding theories that really guide my work. and um, and really help me be so deliberate, strategic, and thoughtful as I'm trying to be intentional in my instructional design and delivery. AI literacy, really being aware of its capabilities and its limitations. UDL, so universal design for learning. Critical pedagogy and visible thinking routines. So this is a very, this grounds my work and the ideas that I'll be sharing here today. I also would be amiss if I did not mention, as we're talking about the intentional use of AI, we need to be aware, especially as educators across the spectrum, because it's impacting our work. Lack of transparency, accuracy, bias, intellectual property and copyright, cybersecurity and fraud, sustainability. And lately, what's really been on my mind and isn't necessarily on here is really the ethical. I'm going to talk more about that, but the ethical and safe use of AI of our students. Because what we're seeing is, and we know this is happening on a global scale, and I'm feeling this in my classrooms, and right now, is that we're in this epidemic of loneliness. And it's very profound here in the United States, and it's a global concern. So as we're talking about the use of technology and AI in our spaces, we always want to be certain that we're being so mindful and thoughtful about how this is impacting our ability to connect in such powerful and meaningful ways as that we create as educators. On top of that, I know, I was in my back to school meetings last week, and we talked so much about critical thinking and how do we inspire, teach, and promote critical thinking during this time of AI. Also, along with this, and I'm curious again if what all of you are seeing in your spaces and places, this might be stating the obvious. I mean, almost no one expects to be using AI less in the next 5 years. So this is the impacts. This is an impact report. Oh, and at the end of the slide deck are all links to all of the resources and studies and research that I'm talking about in my slides. So you can access that at your leisure. This was a survey of about 4,000 teachers, K-12 students, and undergrads. And you can see everyone expects to be using AI more in their work. So, I think about that on top of, and this is the kind of the last data point I want to share, is that this came out in January, just in January of 25, but this is the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report. And these are the skills on the rise in the next 5 years. Now, as educators, again, regardless if you're teaching, I saw we've got some primary school educators. We've got folks teaching across disciplines. We've got folks in higher ed, high school, elementary, across the spectrum and across the world. And these were folks that were surveyed on a global scale about skills on the rise. So for those of us that we are supporting students and their growth, this is really important for us to think about. So AI and big data, number one, networks and cybersecurity, technological literacy, creative thinking, which I'm so glad that made the top 5, resilience, flexibility and agility, curiosity and lifelong learning coming in at number 6. Interestingly, down, I think it's down at number 13. 12 is empathy and active listening. I also want to point here, just because of who we all are in this space, teaching and mentoring came in at 16, along with we've got, dependability and attention to detail. And then rounding out the bottom, manual dexterity, endurance, and precision. But if we think about this in relation to this idea and notion of we're all going to be using, and based on the data, using AI more. We're also in this epidemic of loneliness. And so we're really thinking deeply about connection. So as as teachers, as educators, as administrators, as school leaders, we are positioned in such a powerful place to think about how we want to drive the conversation and really impact connection and meaningful learning experiences in our classroom spaces. With that being said, though, I definitely feel like I'm at a crossroads. I mean, I feel, as I mentioned, as we were looking at the images in the beginning, um, that I waver between, oh my gosh, being so excited and curious, but then also so mindful and aware of just the impact of this tech of AI and the digital technology space and how that's going to impact our world and the way that we teach. So I really have been thinking about this in my own teaching, but also as I'm teaching the teachers of tomorrow. We're in a new moment for pedagogy. So how can we address these opportunities and these challenges? And so I really want to push us to think about intentionality, and that intentionality matters, because then it pushes us also to be responsible. And I have here this arrow, and you can see on the left-hand side, AI is a harmful distraction. And then over here, AI is a powerful tool, one that's going to save us all and change our lives. But the reality is, I think we're all somewhere in the middle, or we're going to vary depending on the circumstance or the situation or who we're teaching or the need. And so this idea that we're either for AI or we're not for AI, I think that is not the conversation that we should be having. It's the responsible use is about the intentionality and the power and the choices that we make and how we decide to engage with technology and bring it into our classroom and introduce it to our students and help them use it to generate new ideas. So these are 3 core principles that I'm using to really guide my work and to guide, again, my work with my future teachers. Well, future teachers that everyone is going to have access to. Number 1, the intentional use. So every AI interaction should have a clear professional and pedagogical purpose. Number 2, human-centered. AI supports but never replaces meaningful human connection. And that we need to be transparent. I'm finding this more than ever. Students and faculty should understand when and why AI is being used and communicate openly about its use. Excuse me. And I deliberately mentioned students and faculty because even right now, I am using Canvas as my learning management system for in my university. And this semester, we now have access to a tool, that is built in into Canvas that will that is significantly going to support my work as an educator. If I would like it to, from an AI standpoint, well, I need to be transparent with my students about that. So I have 4 strategies now that I would like to share. And again, some of you might be, already be doing this. And so please, I encourage you to use the chat, share ideas that you might have been finding are beneficial to you. But this is these are 4 strategies that I'm using right now this semester, and that I'm using and that I'm teaching other faculty at my university and reminding my students about, because it feels a little overwhelming. So the Start Smart framework. And I like to think about starting small and thinking big. One of my gifts as an educator is that I can see the big picture. I think big, I dream big, and I want that for my students. And so sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I want to implement this. I want to do that. Okay, I'm going to change this assignment. I'm going to make this happen. And especially with the infusion of ed technology, of AI tools, it feels like, oh my gosh, there's so much out there for us to choose from and to know where to begin. So my suggestion to you, especially at this beginning of the academic year, begin with one specific task. So for example, you really want to target in on creating engaging discussion questions. Great. Now, just use AI for 15 minutes daily for 1 week and track what works and what doesn't. I've actually built this in very similar to my writing time when I need to be writing as an academic. I try to build in that time into my space. So with that, also build in the play time, build in your own curiosity time, build in the time for you to experiment, and start small and think big. Okay, next strategy, the 3-layer approach. Because I am using this, and I'm using AI and these technologies in multiple ways. So, and this is definitely, I think, as educators, where we're hearing a lot of the talk and a lot of the noise, the good and the bad, in this space is about how it's going to just change the way that I do my job, change the way that I do my work. Well, some of that I don't necessarily want to change, but there are some of these administrative efficiency pieces that can be very helpful. So, you think about the layers in which you choose to incorporate and use AI in your professional and pedagogical space. So there is that administrative efficiency. Secondly, this next layer, your instructional design. I have found this, again, thinking maybe I need some ideas on discussions. Maybe I'm teaching students right now that have 30, 40 students in a classroom. That could be definitely the case for many of you. And when we need to scaffold or differentiate activities, using AI tools can be a wonderful complement to that. And then, as I joked earlier, but definitely rubric development. And then that third layer, definitely the bedrock for me, is really how am I using this in student-facing ways, student-facing applications. So I'm really thinking about the layered nuances of that. It's not just about that, oh, using AI is going to change change my life as a teacher. But it's really about these layers, because we are so complex as educators and the skills that we have. So how can you use these tools for collaborative solution seeking, writing feedback protocols, creative project brainstorming? We're about to have a prompt-a-thon on our campus where students are going to be working to generate powerful ideas to world's problems. So again, thinking about, and these layers can be really beneficial. And as I went back to the start small, think big, maybe you choose to start small in a goal in each layer. So that can be really powerful. I also wanted to share this, and I know this is a lot of text on this slide, but it's such a fantastic tool and a model that I wanted to share this. Prompt engineering matters, and I know we've been talking about this for the last several years as we've been teaching AI literacy and the use of AI tools with our students. But I really like the CLEAR method because this particular method is geared specifically for educators. And so the C being context, the level, and the L, E being our expected outcome, the audience, our A, and the R are those requirements. There are many AI prompt frameworks that are generalized or for students specifically, which are great. But I wanted to share this with you because I love this for us as faculty. And if you're in a space where you're teaching other faculty or you're an education leader, it's linked on the resources page, but the article from Dr. Lowe is fantastic, just about using the CLEAR method. And then the last strategy that I want to share is, and this is, again, I'm finding this more and more, is how do we normalize and really think deeply in the importance of normalizing conversations about boundaries and expectations. We know, again, our students are using AI more and more. We are potentially, it's definitely in our workspace and in our personal lives. And so as you're drafting AI policies or you're thinking about how you might want to discuss an AI policy with your students, these are three elements of an AI policy that I share with faculty, that I engage with, and that is inherent in the AI policy that I utilize with my students. First and foremost is the purpose of, why and how are we going to be using AI in this course? In my role as teaching future educators, I'm really explicit with them about of why I'm embedding this into the course and how we're going to be using it. But then with that too, I have very clear boundaries. What's allowed versus what's not allowed. And I provide examples and we discuss it. We talk about transparency as well. And I mentioned that previously, but how students and teachers, how should we disclose when we're using AI in our use? So everything from, when and where and how, and then how do we disclose this and have these very open and transparent conversations with our students? Because I think that, I am so mindful about saying this, that when we talk about, when people are like, well, AI is here and there's nothing you can do about it and you better accept it. But the reality is yes, it is ever present and it is a technology in our life. We also can be very thoughtful and mindful about how we choose to integrate and utilize this technology in our courses and with our students. So as I wrap up my time with you here, I'd love for you to maybe think about, and please, put into the chat, what is your next step? And again, I'm sure many of you are engaging or in using these technologies in your space with your students. Is there something that you would potentially new that you would like to try? Even in just a little bit, you're going to get to hear from some faculty on how they're using tools like GPTZero with their students, which can be really powerful, right? Which is AI technology in itself, and pushes our students to ask questions. Are you curious about other tools? Are you thinking about conversations that you might want to have? So choose one way to intentionally use AI in the next month, right? We're just starting the month of September. And I'm curious as how you might choose to use this. So I can see we've got creating level text passages, flip an essay, excellent, right? And again, that starts small. We have big, beautiful, wonderful ideas. And with that being said, that we can start small and make it meaningful for all of us. And of course, I was joking earlier with the other panelists that I just love this picture because really, gosh, I felt like at this point, when I started teaching in 1995, man, I would have it not necessarily like figured out, but I feel like this cute little baby, I'm taking baby steps, which is actually so beautiful because it reminds me of the gift and the power of learning. And so I hope that you all just, you find that intentionality, and that you always want to center the human in the space as you're engaging with these AI tools. Okay, so here you can see that in the slide deck, these are hyperlinks. Please connect with me in LinkedIn or on LinkedIn or I don't know, on, about, with. I'd love to collaborate and just share ideas. Sean knows, why I love participating in webinars like this is because it provides me solace knowing that we are in solidarity and there's incredible power and knowledge and wisdom and creativity around the world. So when we gather, it's amazing. Who knows what we can accomplish when we're together. So Sean, thank you so much. Such an honor. And look at that, it is 4:30. I am really, so thank you so much. Oh, Sean, we can't hear you. So, and I should have said it
You would
sooner.
think after all this
Oh
time
my God.
hosting
No.
webinars.
Oh my gosh, you know what I love is this isn't a teachable moment. We did this on purpose, everybody.
Yes, right.
Keeping it real.
Exactly.
Because I
No,
was
no.
over here and I was fixing my
Yeah, no, I'm so
reading.
sorry. That was me. I was on mute.
No worries. So
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
love myself.
um, I want to just thank you, Stephanie, for this presentation. It's been fantastic. And I want to remind everybody, I did put links to Stephanie's slides in the chat. I can do it again after I'm done talking here, but um, there will also be an email that goes out after this webinar that will include a link to the recording and also Stephanie's slides. So you'll have access to those things as well after the webinar is over. Um, I'd like to transition now to talk a little bit about GPTZero and their ambassador program. And to kick us off, I'd like to introduce one of our teachers who is part of the program to share her story about GPTZero. We were supposed to have two, but I found out that one of our teachers was unable to make it tonight. So we have Ann Fisackerly, Ann Fisackerly of William Carey University and Neshoba Central High School. Welcome, Ann. It's great to see you. And I'd love to know a little bit more about your work with GPTZero this semester. So if you wanna take it away, it'd be great.
Hello, everyone. I am an ambassador for GPTZero. I started my journey by being terrified because I got a lot of papers that were composed exclusively with Chat GPT or other AI tools, which eliminated my experience or eliminated my teaching moments. And it sort of scared me because I could see that students weren't interacting with the text. They weren't interacting with anything except for Chat GPT. And so I started using it almost as a tool to punish and saying, you cheated, you cheated. But I realized that I needed more information about just about everything. And one of the tools that I used was GPTZero to help. And they mentioned an educational program or a certificate program. And so I did the 6-hour certificate and then became an ambassador and started using or mindfully planning how GPTZero could become part of my curriculum and part of my syllabus. And so one of the ways that I have incorporated it is I began the year by talking about how AI has impacted the world and some of the same things that Stephanie said with the bias, with the hallucinations, with misinformation, but also the good things, with research, being able to compile data quickly. But I gathered these news articles from legitimate news sources and was able to I compiled so many that all 100 of my students got a different article. Then we were able to have conversations about AI and some of the problems with it, also, balancing it with the benefits. But then they had to document their AI use or their media use and which things are real and which things were created by AI. And so if you look, many of the websites already, I believe either Stephanie said it or somewhere in the material, the GPTZero material, we find that 4 out of 5 people who are creating media, either on TikTok or Instagram, have used AI, and that it is not their real, it's not human created. And so we started this journey as finding what is real, what has actually been fact-checked, and how data, is used to create, or where AI got the data to create. And that, I hope, is going to make my students a little bit more mindful of their data, or of their internet use, and also about how they use AI. And I did write in my syllabus that I was very open with them that what they turned into me had to be, would be checked for AI, and that if they used AI, that it had to be documented, otherwise it would be plagiarism. And so we have two things going on. I'm acknowledging that it's almost impossible to get away from AI, whether you're using Microsoft Word or Google Docs. They offer the AI to help clean up grammar or other things, but also to show them that if they use it, as long as I can see the questions and that I could see that there was a human involved, that it might be okay. And I believe on the GPTZero website, they have a document that shows what is allowable, everything from red light, green light, when you can use. And so I am also very mindful to say before an assignment starts, to say, hey, it is okay for you to use GPTZero on this. I mean, it's okay for you to use Chat GPT or your Google AI to find information, to get ideas. But then you have to stop. But we are having those conversations. I'm no longer pretending like it doesn't exist. Like, oh, I'm in my little box. No one would dare use AI in my classroom. But if you are super mindful about having open communication, then you are able to address and teach students proper use, because it is not going away. Just like Stephanie said, everybody has said they're going to use it more and more. Later in the course, we have a research assignment, and it is always a struggle in Composition 1, which is what I teach, and I teach Composition 2. But in the research, making sure part of the standard procedure is teaching students how to find sources that are credible. And if your source was generated by AI, does it make it not credible? Did someone fact check it? Is there, at what point does having been created by AI eliminate a source? And so you have these conversations along, but you can use GPTZero's citation checker to check all your sources to see if they're legitimate sources, or if AI just hallucinated some citations for something. And having students know that AI can create citations and can, pretend, create quotes that are not real, and then being able to see that is number one, very educational for students, because I think since they have always had technology in their hand, that they are more willing to just accept all of that. So I think the education piece of what AI can and cannot do, and some of the biases and hallucinations, all of this can work to show students that working with AI or using AI needs to be done carefully and mindfully, just like it is for teachers. I tell students, I will read your work. We do writing workshops, so they know that I'm actually reading their work. and not, because I'm there writing with them because I have them in the classroom. I'm lucky like that. But if I were to use AI exclusively to grade their papers, then I should say AI is doing this. And so those are some of the changes that I have made this semester only. Just by starting having it up front makes a huge difference. I've seen students using GPTZero to check their work because I told them that's what I would be doing, just to make sure. They may be using it. A lot of teachers say, oh, they're just using it to see if they've honed it enough that it doesn't pick up AI, and potentially they are. But at the same time, the conversations, if you don't say you cannot use this anytime, but on these particular assignments, it does help. Sean, thank you. We can't hear you again.
I'm muted again. That was good timing. I have one real quick question for you, and that is just to sort of ask what your students, like what the response was from your students when you decided to incorporate GPT-Zero into the classroom. Like, did they feel like they were going to be surveilled? Did they feel like, oh, this is a useful tool? Like, how did they really respond to it?
I think in the beginning they had the fear because, the first, they get the syllabus and it's right there in the syllabus that I will be checking their work.
Right.
But then after the first day, when we did all of our work, each student had an article, and this was like a pre-test for me to see. They wrote on paper, they annotated on paper. I wanted to see what their skills were, to see what I needed to teach them.
Yeah.
And then after that, when I said that, I mentioned that we looked at some videos to see if they could determine what was real and what was AI generated. We looked at some text to see if they could determine. And then I introduced them to the tool, and then they were like, this is fantastic. And they had no idea. So yes, maybe the first day there was a sense
Okay.
of, oh my goodness,
What is this?
she's stalking us. But then once I asked them to make the list of the sites that they use most often and then check some of them,
Mhm.
then they realized that I was not really, it wasn't all about just stalking their writing. It was also about teaching them to be mindful, um, be mindful about their media use, or at least to know what's real, what's human.
That's great.
So I think that, and I am so happy that I did it this way, because it takes away that having the conversations up front, and then being able to say, it's okay if you search and use AI to get some ideas. Okay, then put it away. All the conversations are out in the open. It's not,
Yeah.
they're submitting work. They submit work on Canvas, and William Carey University has turned it in. They submit
Okay.
the work, and it is checked for plagiarism and AI, but it's almost invisible to them until they get their grade. But by
Yeah.
putting it in the open and saying, this is what's going to happen, you submit your work in Canvas, I'm going to check it in GPT-Zero, because the Turnitin AI detector leaves something to be
To
desired.
be desired.
Lots of fake
Sure
false
does.
positives.
Sure does. Yeah.
So that's what, I mean, it's freeing to talk about it. And
Yep.
so that's what I want to encourage other teachers to do. Put it in the open, discuss it with the students, because instead of it being an I got you kind of thing, let them know that you are acknowledging that the technology is there, that people are not going to use it less. all of the things that Stephanie said, it's there.
Yeah.
That does not mean that we have to give completely over to it and lose the human and the critical thinking skills. And
Yeah.
so in my class, I mean, I'm teaching rhetoric. And so part of that rhetoric is seeing how things are created and looking at different models. So it's a perfect fit to talk about AI and talk
That's
about
great.
and to use GPT-Zero. But
That's
the
great.
education, the program, the resources on the GPT-Zero website for teachers are fantastic. If you scroll to the bottom,
Yeah. Yeah.
once you get on there, there's a lot of useful information there.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to switch into talking a little bit about the ambassador program. I know we have a couple of questions about it, but this is also another way for people to really get to the resources that GPT-Zero has to offer. So thank you again, Anne, for joining. I really, really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to share my screen here and go through a little bit of information about the ambassador program. Let's do. So GPT-Zero, as we've talked about, has an ambassador program. You've just heard from Anne Fisackerly. Pearlie was the one who's not able to join us. And I just want to kind of go through really quickly what this program is all about. GPT-Zero recognizes that as we navigate this new landscape of artificial intelligence in our classrooms, we need passionate educators who can guide their colleagues through thoughtful, practical approaches to AI integration. And that's exactly what this program is designed to do. So what does it mean to be a GPT-Zero ambassador? Simply put, you become a champion for responsible AI adoption in your educational community. You'll host webinars and workshops for fellow educators, sharing best practices for navigating AI in the classroom. And here's how that works. As an ambassador, you'll reach out to educators in your school, your district, or your local community to invite them to sessions that you'll facilitate. The beauty of this program is that GPT-Zero makes it incredibly easy and also rewarding for everyone involved. Every educator who attends your workshop receives a full semester of GPT-Zero Premium absolutely free. And GPT-Zero will provide everything you need to lead a successful workshop. You also don't have to worry about tracking attendance or managing anyone's benefits or anything like that. The company will handle all of that on their end, so you can focus on what you do best, which is educating and inspiring your colleagues. I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, this sounds great, but where do I even start? And that's where our comprehensive ambassador toolkit comes in. We've created everything you need to hit the ground running. You'll receive a complete, professionally designed slide deck covering AI detection training, real educator case studies from teachers already using these tools successfully, media literacy in the age of AI, and plenty of additional resources for your colleagues. We've even included GPT-Zero demo videos to make your presentations more relevant and informative. Plus, we provide template emails to help you invite colleagues to your webinars and to follow up afterward. If you want to see exactly what a successful session looks like, we also have example recordings from current ambassadors who are already making an impact in their community. So let's talk a little bit about what's in it for you, though. Because this program is designed to be as rewarding for ambassadors as it is for the teachers who attend your workshop. First, you'll receive GPT-Zero Premium for life. That's $288 annual value, completely free for as long as you're an active ambassador. But beyond the financial benefits, you'll also gain something even more valuable: access to our exclusive ambassador community. This community is where the real magic happens. You'll exchange ideas about AI usage and policies with other educators from across the country. Plus, you'll get direct access to our GPT-Zero pedagogy team. You'll also earn the designation of GPT-Zero Licensed AI Educator, a credential that recognizes your expertise and leadership in this critical area. And as technology evolves, you'll have the first access to all new GPT-Zero product launches, keeping you at the forefront of educational AI tools. So if you're interested in learning more about becoming a GPT-Zero ambassador, please feel free to reach out to GPT-Zero with any questions. There's an email address there that you can use. And meantime, I'll also post a link in the chat to the ambassador program application, or you can use the QR code that's on the screen right now to access that application. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Well, I'll leave it up there for just a second, so you can look at the QR code if you need to. And I need to try to find the chat. I can't find the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing and throw this in the chat real quick. So right there is the form that you can fill out to apply to be an ambassador. It will also on that form give you a little bit more information about the program. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to GPTZero with those questions. We've got just a few minutes left for questions and answers. So I don't know. I'm going to look through the Q&A real quick to see if there's anything that I can answer. There were some questions about the ambassador program. Hopefully those are answered. Broader questions. Any limitations potentially should I be aware of when working with non-English content? There's a lot of questions for folks that actually could be answered by that ambassador community. So how people are using GPTZero actually in the classroom. There's also some questions that have been asked that are probably best answered by the staff at GPTZero, people who work with the tool every single day. We will be having another webinar next week on Wednesday, September 17th at noon Eastern Time. That's with Edward Tien, the founder and CEO of GPTZero. He would be able to answer those sorts of questions for you pretty easily. And then I think there's also some answers that they've compiled on their website as well. So if you have questions about, can it be used with different languages? Can it be used in, this circumstance or that circumstance? Probably best to try to reach out to them or attend the session again next week. And Emily, I'm not sure your question, how long does it take to know if we're selected for the ambassador program? I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure the turnaround's pretty quick. And keep in mind that selection also means that you're guaranteeing that you will actually hold a workshop and be an educational leader around AI on your campus or in your community. Great. So are there any other questions? You can post them in the chat really quick if there's anything else. And if not, I'll go ahead and close this up a little bit early. So as we close up, just a couple of quick notes for everybody, just to remind you, we will be sharing the recording of this session over the next few days. That will include also a link to Stephanie's slides. And please don't forget to attend our conversation next week with Edward Tien. Edward and I always have a great time talking, so I'm looking forward to that opportunity again. And thank you again for attending today. It was great to see everybody here and to see the chat. Really wonderful. Thank you again to Stephanie. Thank you again to Anne for being our speakers tonight. And I wish you all a good night or good morning or good afternoon or wherever you may be in the world. And we'll hope to see you again next week. Ciao.